Hey guys, it's Beth with HWPco, and in honor of Shure's Drum Mastery Contest, we are shining a spotlight on drummers. And I'm here with my good friend Kirk Sarkisian, who's not only my friend, but also an incredible drummer who just so happens to have been recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So Kirk, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Always fun to get a chance to spend time with you.
It is always fun. How long have we been friends now? It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Over a decade.
Yeah.
Because we used to play in a band together.
We used to play in a band together.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say I played. I just sang background vocals.
Yeah. She did what my mother told me I should do. When I told her I wanted to be a drummer, she said to me, she actually hit me in the arm. She said, "Drummer? Why do you want to be a drummer? They have to carry all those things. Be a singer. They don't have to carry anything."
That's true. I carry nothing.
And every time I set my drums up or take them down, I hear her voice.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I would step up to the microphone and be like, "Well, I'm set up.
Yep, there you go."
I'm ready for this. Well, tell us a little bit about your story. How old were you when you first started playing drums?
So I was 13 when I started playing drums, and what drew me to it was my brother was much older. I went to a high school pep rally with him, and it was noisy and fun, and I was just sitting there taking it all in. But the guy who was having the most fun in the entire place was the drummer in the pep band.
Awesome.
He was smiling and grinning and just having the best time, and I was just, I was fixed on him. I can't say that's the moment I decided to be a drummer, but I realized that he was having a lot of fun playing drums.
That's cool. That's really cool. And so, did you have some drumming idols in terms of popular bands and things like that?
As I started to I got first of all, it is a bug. My mother calls it a drug, but I don't want to be that harsh. Once you are drawn into it, it's really hard to shake it. As I told you, I'm in my 60s now. I still perform, and I still love playing and teaching. So
yeah.
But in those days, in the mid 60s, I should say, a lot of the bands that were coming out. Let's see, there was. Ginger Baker, all the big names, Ginger Baker, John Bonham, people like that. I used to go to concerts and watch intently, trying to pick up something. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky to live in Chicago. Chicago had great resources for going to see different bands. Spent a lot of time in blues clubs watching old blues players, just learning how to play a good shuffle, which pays off in the end because if you can play a good shuffle, you get hired a lot.
There you go.
And but Dave Clark Five, who led a band back then. They had a number one hits. In fact, my first real drum set was a Rogers Dave Clark 5 Londoner set from the catalog.
Wow, that's cool.
It was pretty cool.
You still have it?
I do.
Do you?
That little blues set I play all the time. That's it.
Oh, that's so cool. It's an antique.
It is now. Vintage.
Vintage.
It's vintage.
It's vintage. That's really cool. So, will you tell us a little bit about the story of being recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Sure.
And kind of what took you there?
Sure. In the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, 2001, Fortune magazine came up with an event, and it was to honor musicians who had decided not to pursue a musical career but went into corporate life. And so it was Fortune magazine's Battle of the Corporate Bands.
Okay.
Now, it sounds kind of odd, right?
It does, yeah.
But the players, the companies that were recognized and the players that were in these bands were every bit as good as anybody I've ever worked with. And they just decided to make a life choice. Mm-hmm. Most of them had the gear that those of us who performed and sort of, made the money we could during those days wish we could buy, but now they can afford it.
Right.
The bass player had like 7 Sadowski basses, which are custom-made basses.
Wow.
And he just, he could afford it. He loved it. He was really good. So we competed against, companies from Harley Davidson and American Express and a group, just a number of different companies who would put bands together. Now, I should tell you how I got into the band.
Yeah.
So, I'd already been playing professionally for a very long time. I've been on the road. I've been with CBS Records for a number of years. I was at the age and time of my life where I was playing less, and it just so happens, it's a funny story. It is really totally unrelated to being a drummer. But my wife was playing tennis with this guy, and our kids played on his tennis team together. So we were there watching our kids play, and he knew that Michelle had spent her years in corporate life as in an incentive company that did hiring of bands for events. And so he was pushing his corporate band. It was Marsh McLennan, the insurance company, big company. And he said, look, we do everything we do is for charity. We've done about 150 dates. We've raised a little bit over $3 million for charities by doing this, and we can't seem to keep a drummer. And she said to him, well, my husband's a drummer. Maybe you can use him. And he looked at me and he said, really? He said, that's nice. And he kind of brushed me off. He wasn't really interested. He was interested in getting a gig, not finding a drummer at that moment. So Michelle, unbeknownst to me, there was a blues album that I did for a fellow in St. Louis. His name is Ron Leewright. Rondo's Blues Deluxe. It's a great blues album. I don't think it's in print anymore, but it's a wonderful album. And so she had a cassette of it in her car, and that dates me. So
I know cassettes.
Okay, good.
I probably still have a few in a box
date
somewhere.
Some of the, So those of you who are listening to this of my age will understand.
Exactly.
Okay, so we get a call at about 10 o'clock at night, and it says Andy Daniels on the screen. And I pick up the phone and say, Andy, you want to speak to Michelle? He goes, actually, I kind of called to talk to you. And he said, you're kind of like the real deal, aren't you? And I said, well, this is how I, supported my family for years, and it's what I've done since I was, in high school. And he said, you wouldn't be interested in playing in our band, would you? And I said, nah, I don't think so. Thank you, though. And so, one of my wife's big moments, and we've talked about her, and you know her very well.
Yes.
I get off the phone, and she looked at me, and she goes, now, why would you say no? I said, Michelle, I'm not interested in going and, kind of just playing cover tunes with this band. I've done it all my life, and, in my early days, I've paid my dues doing that. She said, but you love to play. Just go do it. So I called Andy back. I said, Andy, when can we go do this? And again, I went and did the audition. They hired me on the spot, and I spent about 2.5 years traveling with them when they had these dates. And it was great because we used the corporate jet to fly. Everything we did was corporate jets, Fairmont hotels, great dinners afterwards, played Fenway Park, played ESPN Zone, played the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, played the EMP Center in Seattle, just great venues, and raised a lot of money doing it. Mm-hmm. So we did this event there, and 2001, as you know, was when the Trade Center was hit.
Right.
This event was on October 4th, so it was shortly after. And so the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Fortune magazine decided not to cancel. They thought that the country needed this, that these corporations who lost people in the in the trade centers would need this. But we didn't do a competition that year. We got together as musicians. We played more together than we did apart, and it was just a chance for us. And everything we raised, all the money was raised, was given to the Tower Foundation. So 2002 comes around. We go back. We were invited back. We play. I won the Best Drummer Award, which shed a light on my history, my career, and my acknowledgement comes from that. The cool thing about it was when I was given my award, Jimmy Fox, who was the drummer with the James Gang, for those of you who know who they are, I used to sit down with their album and play a song called Funk 49 over and over just to learn the parts that were on it. Joe Walsh came from that band. Okay. And so Jimmy Fox from the drummer of the James Gang, Seymour Stein, who was the founder of Sire Records, who signed Madonna first signed Madonna, and Sam Cooke from Sam and Dave, gave me my award.
Wow.
3 great people.
Yeah.
I became fast friends with Jimmy Fox because I have a friend who owns a T-shirt company, and it's called Vintage Wear, and so he takes album covers and he kind of recreates them, but he recreates them in ways that are not quite the actual album cover. He'll take what's going on and replace the heads and stuff. So he had the James Gang, the actual James Gang, the Outlaws, on the but he had them behind the exact instruments that the James Gang were playing. Oh, so wow. I gave it to Jimmy Fox. He goes, "That's my drum set,"
That's hilarious.
So we became fast friends. So anyway, that's how that came about, and it's been wonderful because I get calls to do things every year for them. It's been It's one of those things you look back on. I mean, I got into playing drums because I just love to play drums. I never got into it to make money. I did well. I never got into it for fame or fortune. I'm not interested in that. It's just because I love to play the drums. And so when you get an award or an accolade of some kind, for me it's kind of embarrassing because I have so many friends who are so good, who it's just time and place in most cases. Obviously I've gotten to the point where I was good enough to get to a position where that happened, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not who defines me. So
right. Well, but I will say, as someone who's known you a long time, that you have always been really humble about that. Because I mean, knowing you for as long as I have, I don't think I've ever heard this full story. Leading up to that. So that's very cool. That it's just something, that a talent that you've been given that you enjoy using.
Yep.
Not necessarily for your own glory, but to just use your gifts.
And my biggest reward these days is teaching. I'm giving back. I mean, I'm teaching kids of a few cancer patients who need time away from the noise at home. So I pick them up and take them to my house, and that's just something I do. I have students I've worked with. One of them now is with Hillsong in LA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Okay, cool.
He's with them, which is, he came to me. He got accepted at Berkeley and at Belmont.
Wow.
And he was beside himself. He said, I got the call, and they said, want me to do an audition. I said, they probably send you a packet to learn from, and they're going to test you on this. And he said, yeah. I said, come on over. We'll work on it. And he got accepted into both schools. So, it's that's more rewarding than the other stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I've been fortunate. I played with some great people. I played at all the big venues. I mean, my kids would be watching something, and I'd walk into the room and they'd say, Dad, I would say, I normally say, I played there. And they got to the point wherever I walk in the room and they were watching a concert, say, we know you played there.
Right, yeah. Been there, you've done that.
Yeah.
That's really cool, though. And so I guess with all of your experience and playing in so many venues, obviously the types of microphones that work best for drums.
Oh, well, yeah, and I know how important it is to be able to play for the room too, which is it's key to longevity. If you can play for the room, then in all cases, if you can play for the room in studios, you can play for rooms in big halls, whatever. People notice that. The people who matter, that make me sound good, notice that, and that's a big deal. But yeah, I was telling you earlier that because I started playing in the '60s, the Shure Vocal Master was like the PA that people used, and it was like we saved our money to buy one and realized very quickly we needed some other stuff to come alongside it. But it was the big deal. Well, the Beatles used it on their tour, so if it's good enough for the Beatles at Shea Stadium, it could be good for us, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I've watched and been part of using Shure products for a long time.
So what do you use currently? Do you use any specific Shure?
I do. I have a couple SM57s from, it was the late 60s when I bought them. I'm sure it's the 68, 69 maybe is when I bought them. Maybe as late as 70.
Okay.
In 1970. And I have a couple SM58s. I have a Beta 52, is it? I think it is. As an alternative to another bass drum mic I use. So, the SM57 has been a go-to mic for snare drums for years. In fact, I've got this great photograph, and I don't know how I got her, who sent it to me, but it's a snare drum. It's one snare drum, and around it, it looks like there's 100 microphones, just completely surrounding it, because it's really hard to get a good snare sound, right? And so, putting all these microphones on to try and get the perfect snare sound. But the 57 is always, it's a workhorse. It's used for a lot of different things, but it's really great on a snare drum.
Yeah. And it's funny, I mean, I guess for people who aren't necessarily musicians or aren't familiar with music, they might not even think that drums need microphones, because people just think, oh, they're so loud.
They don't even think they're tuned.
Right, but there's a lot that's involved. It's not just, banging some sticks on those little round devices,
No,
there's a lot involved.
There are definitely microphones that enhance the sound of the drum set, or that are great recording mics for. And that has to do with pressure levels and a lot of different things that are beyond me. Like the people who understand this know better. And I've got some great friends who are sound technicians, still active, And we've discussed stuff like that over the years. Drums are, it's interesting because I sit down young drummers who really just want to bang, and that's okay. You know? Let's just go do it and have fun, right? And I let them know that if you're going to be a drummer, there's more to it than just that. It's the angles at which you play. It's the type of heads you use, the thickness of the heads, the coatings on the heads. It's the depth of the drum, the type of wood that the drum is, and they come in all sorts of varieties of plies of wood and depths of wood, of shells. But tuning a drum is interesting because it's not just like 6 pegs on a guitar. It's actually, you see these what are lugs and screws that attach the rim to the drum. Each one of those is a tuning point, top and bottom head, on all the drums. So it's good to know and to learn how to get relative pitch tuning as a drummer. If you're lucky enough to have drum techs, they come out on stage and they tune the drum for the room, and you trust that they do it right because you've worked with them, and those guys are invaluable. But if you're a young drummer who's going to just be gigging with friends and you want your drums to sound good no matter where they go, learn how to tune them, learn how to dampen the sound a little bit for the room, to work on it. So that you blend with the rest of the band, and you'll work with a lot of people because they like you for that.
Yeah.
Just for that, you don't have to be good yet.
Yeah. That's a great tip for all of you aspiring drummers out there. And hey, you might as well record yourself and then enter the Shure Drum Mastery Contest.
If they would let me enter, I'd enter.
I mean that if they would let me enter,
I had a.
They would not want me to enter.
Oh well, you know what? We have a week, right? Or how long do we have? I can get you in shape for this easily.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll take a couple lessons.
So let me give you a story. One of the things that really helped me in my early years was I got a job at one of the biggest and best drum shops in the country, Frank's Drum Shop in Chicago, world renowned. And it was on the 4th floor of a building on Wabash Street, right in downtown Chicago. And the only way to get to it was on a freight elevator. So you got in, you closed a couple doors, then you kind of grab this rope and hit a button. Now you're on the 4th floor, and the same process that gets you into it opens up. So it's like multiple doors and a screen. And as soon as it opens up, it's an entire warehouse floor of drums and cymbals and stuff. It's like, if a drummer could say this is what heaven should look like,
I was just gonna
this
say,
is it.
Yeah, was that drummer?
And so I had great mentors there. Maury LaShawn, who was the owner, and his son, and then all the great drummers in Chicago that worked in Chicago would come in, and I was just a young kid there, and so they would all impart wisdom that I was lucky enough and smart enough, I guess, at the time to just stow away for those days when I needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and isn't that just a practical advice for anyone in any field? Listen to people who are experienced, older, wiser. Soak that up.
Yeah. And now that I'm older and wiser.
Now that you're older and wiser. How's that feel, Kirk?
Yeah,
it
feels older. It feels a lot like older, not wiser.
Still waiting on that wisdom thing to, take hold of me. But
actually, every so often I'll say something and I'll think it's like an out-of-body experience because I said it. I look back and I'll say, who was that said that?
Yeah, wait a minute. Did I just impart wisdom?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your stories and your friendship.
Well, I appreciate you, Beth. I always have.
Oh, thank you. And I just, I think you have a great story, and I'm glad that now you're still using your gifts and teaching.
Well, they say old drummers never die. They just beat it out of town.
Well, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I like to think.
That's awesome. This whole interview, by the way, has taken place courtesy of the Shure MV88 Plus, which is attached to my phone and making it really easy for us to have this conversation. So you've been listening to Beth with HWPco. To find more information on the Shure Drum Mastery Contest, check us out on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, HWP Core TV, for not only the latest on this contest, but also information on all of our manufacturers and their products. So thanks for joining us today. We'll talk to you soon.
Cool.
See you, Kirk.